All right, hey there. Just wanted to go over this again with the piston to head clearance. I talked about it before and actually demonstrated it. Typically, you want your squish between your piston and your cylinder head to be between 30 and 50 thousandths. Now, this head's a little bit different. This is BMW. Some of this older stuff just uses a fire ring in here. So you're going to measure from the edge of the piston to where the fire ring goes. And in this case, we have 50 thousandths. But that's no head gasket on there. So we need to see what head gasket's going to bring it out to, because your fire ring depth between the head and the cylinder can be a little bit different. So you want to use preferably a head gasket that's already been squished, like the old one that came off the bike there that's already been compressed. To do that, so let's just wipe this thing off here. And then you're going to put the head gasket on. And what we're going to do, since we're only at 50 thousandths, you can use clay, or what I found is a better method is a piece of solder, because when it crushes the solder, it's a little easier to measure with your calipers than it is trying to do clay, because clay you can indent the clay and not get a really good reading off of it. So before we take this off there, we're going to scroll the engine back a little bit so it's not at top dead center like it is right now. It's ever so slightly. Then we'll take our bolts off of here. Actually, hold on. You know what? Let's do this first. Let me move this thing back up. We'll put the solder on there first. So I'm going to start off. I got a piece of 60,000 solder, since we know that we're not really going to be too much over that. I got a piece of 120 here, but that's going to be too big right there. So we'll just use this piece of 60, or thereabout 60. You're just going to cut it to fit over the dome of the piston. And you can use tape or whatever. I'm just going to use a piece of clay in here to hold it. Hold it in place. Now, some heads aren't going to have much of a shelf in them. Like these basically have almost no shelf at all. And since this uses a fire ring, you really can't use a thinner head gasket on there unless you machine the head and the cylinder, which I've done before on old stuff that uses this system. Let's put our cylinder head on here. Now, on this older stuff, if you look in here, you see that cutaway right there. That's where that fire ring for the cylinder sits up in this head here. And really, it's just there to protect the head gasket. So what I used to do, and I can't do it now since I don't have the equipment anymore to do it, was I'd mill this head, put it on the Bridgeport table, and mill it how much ever I was going to mill it, and then CC the head to see how much I gained off of it. So typically, this thing you have to mill it a lot on something this big. You know, you're talking probably 30, 40, 50 thousandths maybe. And then you'd have to counterbore for the fire ring once you've milled it down. Sounds complicated, but it's not. It's pretty much that simple. The key is that you're not really going to know after you make one cut, so you're going to have to CC the head, put the valves in, use your CC plate, and then check the volume of the combustion chamber there to see it. And another thing too, let's just say your squish right here was way low or way high. So say you put it in here and you had you had basically no squish at all. We'll just say it was 80 thousandths. Well, the thinner head gasket ain't going to do nothing for that. So you'd end up, what I'd do is chuck the cylinder up in the lathe or on the mill and cut the base gasket surface down to draw the cylinder in closer. And this thing doesn't use a base gasket, it uses an O-ring. So you can't use a thinner base gasket because it ain't got one. So you cut the cylinder. I mean, this is measure it. Let's just say you put it up here and it was 80 thousandths from the piston to the head. Well, the only option you really got is to cut the cylinder down, unless you're swapping pistons out. And pistons ain't as cheap as they used to be. Not that they were ever really that cheap, but so basically, I'm just checking this as a demonstration for anybody watching there. What happens is you could do this bike right here and take another bike, exact same year, and measure everything. And, this is sitting at 50 thousandths right now from the piston to the edge of the fire ring. Well, the other bike might be 40 thousandths. You got various differences, and, piston might be slightly taller, slightly. Now, let's just say 40 thousandths, the piston was 5 thousandths taller for whatever reason, you don't know. And then you had 5 thousandths, the cylinder was 5 thousandths shorter. So that's your 10 thousandths right there. But it's just something to check. What I would like to have done with this bike, but it's not really in the budget, because this is really low compression in the US models only for probably EPA. The compression ratio is only like 8.2 to 1 on this thing. So not good, really. 8.2. When everywhere else in the world it was 9, anywhere from 9 to 9.5 to 1. I think I saw somewhere where it said 9.5 to 1, and somewhere else where it said 9.2 to 1. Still, that's a lot more compression than 8.2 to 1. Not really in the budget, but thinking about doing it is swapping these pistons out before I coat them to set of higher compression pistons that are actually I think they said they're 200 grams lighter or 270 grams lighter, something like that. So quite a bit lighter. But I don't know. I already bought rings for this thing, and I think they'll take them back, especially if I'm buying pistons set from them. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Seriously considering it anyway. Oh, the rocker shaft here. That's one of those things where you should do it while you got it apart. I mean, I probably will. Just have to move some stuff around, put off some stuff, and basically wait till I get. I mean, I still got a lot of crap to do to this thing, but basically wait till I get the pistons. I still have to paint everything. Still have to port the heads, so it's not like I need it next weekend. I might end up doing that with the new pistons. It's an idea anyway. Pretty damn good one, if I say so. Just going to torque those down, and I'm not actually going to torque them because I'm lazy to get up and get my torque wrench. But you should torque them down to whatever factory specs are for your particular application. Now this is a lot easier to do on a single. If you need to change something like on inline 4, you would hope that all the pistons are the same. You would hope that. Chances are they might be close, but they're not going to be exact. So where you would need to check this at and I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes here and for my own curiosity on this engine, is if you were, that ought to be good enough. I don't think the torque's really that high on this bike here. It's only like 25 foot-pounds or something. It's not really high. Now, what you would do this is if you're looking for that little bit more performance. You know, a lot of bikes you can get more modern stuff. You can get thinner head gaskets for them. It's basically swap it out. You know, you got the head off anyway, so get the thinner head gasket. But you're not going to know that you can do the thinner head gasket unless you actually check this. Definitely no less than 30 thousandths on the clearance there. Or I wouldn't run that because I tried to run closer than that before. The wheel to spin it around with there. Let's pull this thing off here and see what we got. Yeah, it's 60 thousandths. So, not great. Not horrible either. At least it's not, well, we don't know because this is only a 60 thousandths piece of solder. So I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's put some clay in there and we'll do it that way, just to see. Solder works. It is more accurate, but I don't even know how close we are to the head there as far as the shelf goes, because it ain't very much of a shelf in there that sticks past the cylinder. So we're just going to slap some clay in here and do it the old-fashioned way. Now, if you're using clay, you'd want to be able to pull this off here and be able to get the clay out of it. And since I'm not, I don't have all this stuff clean yet anyway, extremely clean. I mean, it's clean enough to do this, but it's not assembly clean. So we'll do this and see if we get a better impression of it. Because I know the next size solder up I got is 120 thousandths, so that's entirely too big. This is one of those things that you don't really have to check it every time, but if you're looking for a little more oomph out of your bike there, it's worth looking into. This isn't really so much about compression as it is squish. It's more efficient with a tighter squish band than it is having it wide open there. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually more, your engine's more detonation prone with no squish in it than it is having a tight squish band. Which doesn't sound like it should work because you are raising the compression slightly, very slightly. When I say slightly, I mean very slightly. It's not like you're going up a full point, but you are going up slightly. Yeah, that feels like 25. That feels like 25. So does that. I got the calibrated elbow there. And calibrated wrist. Okay. Now let's pull it off here and see what we got. And oftentimes, if you do have a bike that you need a thinner head gasket, but nobody makes one, supposedly, nobody makes one, you can call someplace like Kinetic And they'll actually make you a custom head gasket if you were so inclined to do that. It ain't cheap, but they will do it. And I don't remember what the price was because I haven't bought a custom head gasket from them for many years. Many years. Like probably, let's see. I think the last time I needed a custom head gasket was, or any custom gasket was probably over 20 years ago. First time I needed one, I had somebody wanted a copper cam cover gasket or gear case cover gasket for an XR 750, and ended up contacting Cometic, and back then that was pre-internet, so I contacted them, and they just wanted me to take a photocopy of the gasket that I needed and fax it to them. And faxed them, and the guy calls me back and he goes, "Is within 5 thousandths okay?" "Yeah, 5 thousandths is perfect, man." So I guess they just water jet cut it, or probably water jet back then, because that's been quite a while ago. Could have been laser too, I guess, but more than likely it would have been water jet cut. Let's see, got a little piece of clay stuck to her head there. Let's check this thing, see where we're at here. That 61 going to work. It's sitting at 70 thousandths there. Let me spin this thing over a little bit more. So we know that we'd like it tighter, but that don't necessarily mean that it's possible to get it any tighter. I mean, it is, but that was what we're doing. Yeah, 70. And check this side here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's compressed just that little bit right there on the edge. So like I said, not much of a shelf in this thing. Yeah, it's 70 thousandths all the way around. So like I said, the way that we'd increase this, the only way to do it using these pistons would, and this cylinder head type, and I've done it before, is when you mill this down quite a bit, you when you do the counterbore, you can actually step the counterbore out slightly. And this isn't a great design for a cylinder head anyway. Typically, you want your shelf even out here a little bit more. Not on these heads, but on other heads, I've actually welded these up in the chambers around here. You just build them up, build it like a little bathtub shape in the head there. Preheat the head and just lay your weld in there, TIG weld, and then machine it back down till you get the shape you want and the shelf you want. You know, 30 to 50 thousandths. I typically shoot for 30, 35 thousandths in that range if I'm doing it when I had all the equipment to do it with. And they do make more power everywhere and run some pretty crazy compression numbers. Not with stock stuff, but with other pistons, and not have a problem detonating as long as everything's set up right. But that's about it, man. I think it's about dinner time out here. Hopefully you guys can see that. I don't have light out here really great at night. These LED lights, they're not as bright as they could be. But we're starting to work on the new shop. We're not starting to work on it. We're still waiting for the ground to dry over there. And it's actually solidified up pretty good. Won't be ready till, I don't know, next spring sometime. Still have to put a lot of fill in there because it's where we took all them trees out. It's pretty low, so we need to grade it. But that's another story. This is fairly simple process. It's all measuring. Don't be afraid to do it. There's really not much you could. Well, I mean, there's stuff you could screw up. You get it too tight. But if you're careful measuring your squish band as far as your piston to head contact, then you should be good to go. Just be sure you're using a head gasket that's already compressed, like the old head gasket. If it's a new head gasket, you're going to need to get another. You don't need two of them. You need one to do this, so you have to fully torque it all the way around to spec. You don't need to run it, just fully torque it all the way to spec. And do your measurements, pull everything apart, and when you got everything, use your new head gasket on there. And really, that's about it. Hope everybody has a good week. And I think I am going to go ahead and get those. I think they're Sieben Rock pistons, or I think they're not. I think they're advertised 9.2 to 1, so 1 full point higher, which is good. I didn't know these things ran such low compression. In general, you know, and then people say, "Oh no, if you run too close to 10 to 1 on these things, you got to run dual plug heads." Really? Sounds like that's a really horrible combustion chamber to me. And looking inside of it, it is pretty. I'm not really impressed with the quality of the head castings or the general piston setup. For instance, I weighed this stock piston against the stock 1200 Harley piston, which the piston's bigger on the Harley. But the Harley piston weighed over, I think, 120 grams less than the BMW piston. I'm thinking mainly because the wrist pins are absolutely massive in these things. They are quite heavy, the wrist pins. I would imagine with the right cam in this thing, and it's not like you have a whole lot of choices with the Beamer. There's basically like 2 cams, I think, unless you have something custom ground. You know, and then you're looking at big dollars for that. It's kind of crazy to me. I could do a 883 to 1200 kit on a Sportster using the stock cams, bone stock EPA cams, which are absolutely horrible. They have like negative overlap on them, and run them at 10 to 1 all day long, no problems. Now, I'm just going by what people say on these things, that you can't run them over 9.5 to 1, or you have to dual plug them. And, you know, that might be the case. I'm sure it probably is, or very severe tuning issues, like somebody had done work and tried to run it at 10 to 1 and found out that it can't be done because the combustion chamber sucks so bad. So just a kind of a comparison there. I've done shovel heads. I've run shovel heads at 10.5 to 1 with single plug heads on a shovel head, which those combustion chambers are way worse than these, way worse. And not had a problem with them. But then again, like I said, cam choice. You know, how many cams do they make for shovel heads? A lot. So you get your overlap and your timing right on those things, you ain't gonna have a problem. These things, not so much, huh? But that's more than you needed to know. So that's the process there, and I'm just running my mouth now. So hope everybody has a good week, and take care. It's time to go eat now. Have a good one.